This is a video on how to do a wrist warmer on a pair of straight needles versus in the round. It's a great companion to your banded hat pattern that was done on another video. You start by casting on the amount of stitches per pattern, leaving a very long tail which we're going to use to seam it up once the item is finished. You would do your garter stitches on either side in whichever type of cable you choose to put in the middle, whether it's a basic cable, horseshoe cable, silver dollar cable. It's entirely up to you which design you want to do. After you get the appropriate amount of rows done, then you want to bind off the top on the front side. Don't worry about how it looks at this point because this whole thing will be sewn into the seam. You turn your work sideways 90 degrees. Now you would pick up one stitch between each of the knobs of your garter stitch. It comes out to around 34 or 40 stitches. I can't remember right now, but if you check out the pattern online, it's on my website. It's stitchniche.com, but you pick up all your stitches between your knobs. Once you've picked up all the stitches completely across, you would have something that looks like this. It'd be this section here. You turn your work and knit back. That will give you the little ridge, which gives you a nice definition between your bottom and your top. You do 4 rows of stockinette. After you do that, you want to knit 14 or 17 stitches, depending on whether you're doing a right wrist warmer or a left. After you get your 14 stitches, place a marker. It can be a fabric marker, a yarn marker, a split ring marker, a regular marker, or a safety pin, whatever you prefer to do. The first thing you do is to make one. You don't do a knit in the front and back because that leaves a little bump. So you pick up your stitch, put it on your left needle. Now I have trouble going into the back loop personally, so I have a little cheaty trick I like to do. I put it in the front and then rotate it around the needle, and that puts it in the back. Then you want to knit that, knit 2, and do another increase. Maybe I can get the back on this one. Go on the back of the stitch, there we go, and knit it. Place your second marker, so now you have your 2 markers. This is your thumb, or the gusset for the thumb. Then you would knit across. Let's pretend I've gone all the way across. After you've gone across, then you come back and purl all the stitches, slipping the markers as you go. And at this point we have 4 stitches between the markers. We want to keep doing this increase on either side of the marker until there are 14 stitches. So we'll do this one more time. I will do a couple of stitches past it, pretend like I've gone all the way to the end. Now we're coming back. You go up to the marker, slip your marker, do an increase on the left side of your first marker, knit to the next marker, and do your second increase at your second marker, slip your marker and knit across, and after you knit across, turn your work and purl back until you have your 14 stitches between your 2 markers. At that point you'll have a piece that looks like this, where you've got your 14 or 17 stitches here, your 14 stitch increase in the middle, and then your opposite 17 or 14 stitches on this side. Here we're going to get the thumb started. So you knit to your marker, slip your marker over because you're going to need to know where you're at for a while. Now there's 2 ways to do this. The one I like to do is you do your rib stitch here, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, bring your yarn to the front, purl 1, yarn to the back, knit 1, yarn to the front, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and you do this all the way across to your marker. the end with a purl. Okay, then you want to turn your work. We're going to do 2 cable cast-ons. This will be for the gusset part of your thumb. Pick up your stitch, put it on your left needle. Do the same thing again. Knit a stitch, but instead of taking it off your left, put the one on your right onto your left needle, and that gives you 2 stitches. And at this point you would do your garter stitch, your rib stitch again, where you knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and just complete this all the way across. When you get to the other side, you do another cable cast on of 2 stitches. I prefer wood knitting needles. The metal ones are just way too noisy. Also, the wooden ones seem to hold the yarn a little better than the metal ones do. It doesn't feel as slippery to me. But each person to their own. When you get to your next marker, turn your work, because we're only knitting on the stitches between the markers. Now we do another cable cast on, where you knit 1, set it on your left needle, knit a second one, set it on your left needle, and you do it again. You do your rib stitch. You'll do this for 6 rolls. Now you don't do any more cast-ons. That's the last cast-on. You're only doing 2 on either side. That gives you the extra space in this part of your finger. Now once you've got all 16 done, you have your thumb. Then when you have your thumb done, you would bind off, leave a little tail so you have something to sew your thumb seam up with. Then now we're going to close up the thumb hole. You would put your stitches back over onto this needle, and you'll knit across until you get to the thumb. I already knitted part way there so we could save a little bit of time. Once you get to here, you want to pick up those 2 cast-on stitches you did. One's here and one's there. So you insert your needle, yarn over, and pull it through. There's one. You want to do another one. There we have our 2. Now we want to go to the other side of the thumb and pick up these 2 stitches on this side. So you pick up 1. This gives you 4 stitches on the inside of your thumb to allow for the space. Then you would continue knitting across. Now pretend like I've gone all the way across. At this point, you turn and you would purl back. When you get to those 4 in the center, just purl right across those 4. Okay. And when you get to the end, you would knit. Now this is where you're going to knit 2 together. Those 4 that we picked up, we want to knit them together so we have the same amount of stitches that we started with. You can actually do it on the purl row if you want instead of doing it on the knit row, whichever you're more comfortable with. Either way works just fine. So here you would knit these 2 together, and then you knit these 2 together, and then you would continue knitting across. You would do that until you had 4 rows. Once you had the 4 rows done, you would have this part here, because you have your thumb connected in your 4 rows. And at that point you would do a rib stitch, knit 1, purl 1 to do your top, and then you would bind off in rib. So you would knit the first one, purl the second one. I have to bring the yarn to the back in order to do this comfortably. Then you would bind off. Now the yarn's in the back where it needs to be for your next stitch. So you would knit your stitch, pick up and bind off, bring your yarn to the front so you can purl your next stitch, pick up your stitch, pass over, pick up your next knit stitch, bind off, then we got a purl stitch, put the yarn to the back, and you do this all the way across until you have the whole thing bound off, which would be this. You would sew your thumb together with that little piece. You would then take this off your holder, hold this together, and do a very shallow stitch. Just go in the first row of knit stitches here to join to this one. Don't want to go in two. If you go in two, you would have a thicker ridge on the inside, and the thinner the ridge, the better it looks. Then, of course, you would also have to finish off this side too. Happy knitting!